You've been doing calisthenics for a while and you wonder, how the fuck can I increase my pull-up max? The good news is, I will show you how you can break free from that plateau and start destroying records with ease. I was in the same boat as a beginner, not progressing for weeks, unsure if it was a lack of strength or increased weight, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't add more reps, so I researched and I found the answer. And after that, I increased my reps almost every workout. And I'm not exaggerating here, I was adding in 1 or 2 more reps every few days. So in the first place, one thing that you can immediately do to increase your reps is to break the form a little. I know, there's a lot of dick riding in the calisthenics community about keeping the nice form, the perfect form at all times. But it is important to know the difference between keeping a nice form and a correct activation. A nice form is how visually appealing the exercise that you're doing is presented to the public. A correct activation, however, is how you manage to efficiently recruit the muscles needed to perform a certain movement. This is well said by Valentin Blank in his video, where he talks about how focusing solely on quality reps is slowing down your progress. So if you're trying to increase your number of reps, keeping a perfect form at all times will only result in a waste of energy that could be used to add in 1 or 2 more reps. And you want to make sure that you get in as many reps as possible, because these will allow you to build more strength and increase the number of clean reps that you'll be able to do in the future. But this is only possible if you're using the correct muscles. Think logically with me for a second. Why on earth would you try to increase the number of reps you can do on any given exercise if you're not actively engaging the muscles needed to perform it? After all, it's the contraction and retraction of these muscles that make your body go up and down. Fucking mind-blowing, right? For me, this is pure logic, but well, it seems like most folks are more worried about having a pretty form than actually following this principle. So please, pretty please, make an effort to learn and implement the correct activation in your exercises. This will save you so much time, I guarantee you. And on top of that, working out will become so much simpler. Do make sure that your push-ups or any other exercise don't look like this. You want to break the form, but you don't want to break the activation. Mastering the correct activation isn't very impactful if you're still using your energy inefficiently. That is why you break the form, to shift the energy that's being used to maintain a visually attractive position to the muscles that actually allow this to be possible. So for example, if you're doing a power move, you don't need to slowly control your body on the way down, so on the negative part, because that same energy could be used to get in another rep. This kind of depends on the goal you're aiming for, but I will talk about that later. You know what? I might actually just talk now. If your goal is hypertrophy, sure, you want to slightly control your way on the way down there because you want to keep your muscles more time under tension, so you're destroying more of your muscle fiber cells. Incorrect breathing is also something that can stop you from squeezing in those last 2 reps. As a rule of thumb, in the positive part of the movement, you want to exhale, and in the negative part, you want to inhale. So you're doing the push-up, you want to inhale. So on the negative part, where you're resting, you want to inhale so you can then push. And there are some exceptions to this though, like in the front lever, it's completely the opposite. So you're doing the pull-up. But these are just a few minor exceptions. You shouldn't get caught up with this, as you will learn these small details along your journey. The reason why I talk about breathing is because while you have air in your lungs, some muscles, especially the abdominals, work differently than if your lungs were to be empty. And sometimes this can interfere with the movement you're doing. So this really interferes a lot in the planche, the front lever, and just blindly accept this, start focusing on the breath. Because the professionals do it, so why... Because the professionals do it, fuck. Because the professionals do it, so why shouldn't we? It is super important to detect whether you're lacking effective strength or supportive strength. The supportive strength is what I call the strength needed to maintain a certain position in order to perform a certain exercise. And effective strength is common within the muscles that are used to actually perform the movement. By the way, I don't know if these are actual terms, I just came up with them for the sake of simplicity. But for example, in the pull-ups, the supportive strength would come from your forearms holding onto the bar, while your effective strength would come from your back and biceps, depending on how you're performing the movement. This way, if you can do more pull-ups because your forearms fail, it's a good idea to implement exercises that actually strengthen the forearms, such as doing dead hangs in the end of your workouts. Please do dead hangs. Such an underrated exercise. On the other hand, if you stop doing pull-ups because your back or biceps failed, I would add another exercise that strengthens these muscles in need. But just be careful to not make your workouts too long. You definitely don't want to overtrain. 4 to 5 exercises is more than enough to get a complete workout, especially if you're doing compound exercises. So exercises that target a lot of muscles simultaneously, but feel free to add in as many stretches as you want in the end of every workout. This will also help you a lot recovering, so the faster you recover, the harder you'll be able to train, and the more reps you'll be able to build in a short amount of time. I personally always do dead hangs for 2 to 3 minutes at the end of every single training session, even if it's legs, push, pull, anything, because dead hangs are so underrated. I love them. Now, if you're lacking effective strength, I wouldn't recommend you to do any random exercise that still targets the muscles you need. Like, if you're lacking strength in your pull-ups, I wouldn't tell you to do fucking Superman holds. I mean, it still targets the back muscles, but the movement is completely different from the actual pull-ups. So in this case, I would recommend you to do an easier progression, such as pull-up negatives or Australian pull-ups, more likely Australian pull-ups because you do the full range of motion. Whenever you lack strength in any given exercise, you should always keep in mind exercise specificity. So if you're doing planche and you lack shoulder strength, you should do easier progressions of the planche. You shouldn't copy fucking Sabrina that's in her salon with her friends doing CrossFit, fucking swinging kettlebells up. It still targets the shoulder, but it's a completely different exercise. It's worthless. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of your energy. So always focus on exercise specificity. This is where your body adapts to the movement. So when it's time to actually do the exercise, your body already knows what to expect and which muscles to activate. Therefore, why I am so picky about this. Australian pull-ups are a great example because the major difference between these and the actual pull-ups is a shift of center of mass, consequently resulting in a decreased difficulty. Before you go on and embrace this as the best method in the world, you need to determine your goals. Is your goal strength? Is your goal hypertrophy? Is your goal endurance? Both? All of them? This method works best if you're aiming for hypertrophy or simultaneously strength as well. If your goal is endurance, which goes further than 20 reps, so it goes to the 100s, 200s, and these astronomers repetitions, I highly suggest you to take a look at the every minute on the minute sets, EMOM sets, which are more specifically designed for this goal. But since my focus is more strength and hypertrophy, although I still do a little bit of endurance sometimes, I like to test my limits, I can't really give you advice on how to increase your repetitions to over 100, 200, and more, as this takes a completely different training method approach. So just one small note, if you're doing the same as me, hypertrophy and strength, so you want to build muscle and be strong as fuck, every time you get to a high level of reps, you're going to want to change to a more difficult similar exercise, because if you start getting to too many reps, like 20, 25, you're starting to train on endurance, not really strength and hypertrophy. For example, if you can do 12 pike push-ups, I wouldn't try to keep increasing this number, well, maybe up to 15, 18 at maximum, but I would move on to decline pike push-ups, which is a little harder, so it's a progression, and I would start building up the reps from there. So I would repeat the entire process again of building up my reps, and then after decline pike push-ups, I would move on to handstand push-ups, and then on and on, so you get the idea. So join my Discord. Kisses. Mwah.